Jared Taylor, are you on the air?
Yes, I am. Good to talk to you, Derek.
Oh, thank you for coming on. It's good to talk to you. All right. Well, I've been following the conference, and I say, like everybody else, I'm very disappointed that the conference got canceled, and it's just outrageous that it happened. And so I want to thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy trying to organize last minute for all the people who are still going to be coming into town. Could you tell the story about it? I've explained to people on the air who I imagine people don't realize that these things happen, that the conferences for free speech, for discussion of racial realism, get shut down by threats from so-called anti-hate organizations who are hateful people themselves and who threaten hotels and who have things shut down so that people can't speak. I doubt most people understand that this happens. Could you tell the story shortly?
Well, you summarized it very well. We have actually gone through 3 different hotels that had agreed to host our conference. This would be the 9th of our conferences, and as you say, these are gatherings of people who discuss these matters in entirely sensible, thoughtful, and I needn't add, legal manner.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfectly legitimate gathering of people who have important things to discuss. And heretofore, we've had a few crank phone calls and maybe a few demonstrators, but never has a hotel actually canceled its contract. And this time we had to go through 3 hotels, and when a 3rd hotel canceled, that was the end of the line. There was just no other place to go.
No, it's important. This is the 8th annual.
It's outrageous for a host of reasons, and you have described them very well. We have the rights to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble guaranteed in the First Amendment. However, unless our society is set up in a way to punish people who make illegal death threats like this, unless our society is composed of people who are going to either stand up to that kind of thing or make sure that those people are punished, this notion of having free speech guaranteed to us in the Constitution is just a complete baloney and an illusion.
It's important people understand that. I get berated around here, as do you and all of your work, for racial realism. And it's a frequent argument. I've heard these leftists who are on television and on newspapers talk about how they just despise what I say for some reason. They say I am a hateful person, but they're going to allow me to say it. The old Voltaire quote. They despise what I say, but they're going to allow me to say it. And people believe this. They believe that we're allowed to speak, and it's just not true. In the United States, we're shut up by a biased media. And then when we actually try to have conferences among our own people for scholarly research from people from around the world and thousands of dollars for plane tickets and airfare and hotel reservations, they'll shut us down just because they're afraid of something. It really baffles me what they really think that they're going to accomplish by shutting down conversation amongst ourselves for people to find out what we believe.
I think there's another important aspect of this, and that is that we can be absolutely certain that if it were any other kind of group, certainly any other kind of racially related group, say the NAACP or National Council of La Raza, if some fanatics had used death threats to try to get an event of theirs canceled, it would be nationwide, coast-to-coast news. The FBI would be on the case immediately, and other venues would be lining up begging to host their event. But, of course, in our case, because we are dissidents, and we are dissidents against the orthodoxy that is the most powerful orthodoxy in America today, that is to say the racial orthodoxy, the mainstream media and our rulers are guaranteed completely to ignore this. This just goes to show that they have no principles at all. If people with whom they disagree, if people who are intellectual and ideological irritants to them are silenced and denied a venue, they think that's just fine. If their friends and their pets are denied a venue, then that's a federal case. This is a perfect example of a double standard and utterly unprincipled behavior on the part of the mainstream media and our government.
And I'll answer my own question from earlier, what it is they fear. They fear that in open debate we always conquer because we have the facts on our side. The fact that race exists and is the determining factor in behavior and immigration, it's the overall issue in politics in America today, is just an overwhelming fact. And all the criminal stats and the political stats and the hypocrisy of the multicultural establishment falls apart in front of our debate. So that's what they have to fear, is if our our side is allowed an open forum and allowed to meet and allowed to get out the facts, we're the most reasonable people and the most logical out there. So only hypocrisy and only people that have something to hide would want to shut down open forums. That's the lesson to take from being shut down. It's a great compliment to your debating skills.
Well, that's certainly true. As I have often explained, as I have often explained to people who are trying to shut us down, or people who are curious about that, if we are so spectacularly wrong, then we should be easy to refute. Come debate us. If we are so terribly, hopelessly wrong, they should be able to just crush our arguments. Of course, they are not able to crush our arguments. So our status is a little bit like that of dissidents in the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. The dissidents there were saying things that were obviously true, things that all Soviets knew to be true, but it went against the official ideology. That's the case with the race realists today. We are saying things that are obviously true. As you pointed out, that race is a real and legitimate category. It's a biological category, not a sociological delusion of some kind. And furthermore, it is an important part of individual identity, that multiracial societies are always full of conflict, that diversity is a source of conflict and tension rather than strength. These things are obviously true. And that, of course, is why our opponents are so terrified that we might have an opportunity to say these things publicly.
Exactly. Well, I suppose we should talk about, for people who may be listening locally who are going to attend the conference, and then people on the web stream. No. For the conference.
No, we don't. The conference is canceled. We will hope to reschedule at some point. We're considering our options, but the conference of Feb 1921, I'm afraid that's canceled. We desperately tried to find another venue, but there just didn't seem to be any way to pull it out of the bag. When you have a 3-day conference that's going to involve hundreds of hotel rooms, banqueting service, and many reservations, and all of that, it's a big undertaking. And when you're canceled 3 days before it's supposed to begin, it's very tough to arrange a substitute venue.
Mm-hmm. I know I've read people around the country and around the world who are trying to help out with donations and with whatever help they can. So I guess at this point that's the best message that they can send to these so-called anti-hate groups out in the country who shut this down. They try to support in whatever way they can.
I have been very heartened by the support that we have gotten from, as you say, all around the world. Messages of support and encouragement and outrage are pouring in. And the ones that are in some respects the most heartbreaking are the ones that come from overseas, from people who say, we thought America was a land of freedom. Mm-hmm. We thought that it was a land of the free and a home of the brave. What's going on here? Well, that's the kind of question we've been asking for years now. And this really besmirches America's name in the eyes of people all around the world who think of us as a freedom-loving people.
On Thursday, we're going to have Paul Fromm on the program, who's a true Canadian human rights activist. We'll talk about that more on Thursday. People who in Canada and around the world are shut down because of speech, arrested, fined, have their internet access is revoked by a court of law because they say things that are, well, true, but that may be considered offensive. What are the word? Disparaging, or may subject someone to contempt, which is a very vague thought crime law. And around the world, this is the case. To our north specifically, and people come to America because they believe that they can assemble here. We have a constitution, we have the freedom to assemble, and we can actually discuss things that in their own countries they would be subject to fines and imprisonment. So if that's lost in America because hotels are willing to shut down, I mean, I don't know where we're going to go, but I wish Ameren all the best, and I'm sure that it's going to be reorganized, and there will be future meetings and things will triumph in the end. I know that from the outpouring of goodwill that I've seen on the internet in the last couple of days.
Yes, we will certainly continue, and we will make lemonade out of lemons, and the kind of support and encouragement we've been getting. And if there are any honest journalists out there, they will realize that this is the thin edge of the wedge. If you can cancel a meeting held by a 501c3 non-profit, tax-exempt organization such as my own organization, American Renaissance, you can shut anything down. If, for example, I mean, we don't even have to take the obvious case of some other racially oriented group, such as La Raza or NAACP. If, for example, the meat packers want to have a meeting someplace, and the radical animal rights folks start calling in death threats, then their venue might be jerked. Or the foresters. If the tree huggers decide that, no, these foresters, or say miners, mining operators want to have some kind of conference, they could do exactly the same thing. This is a terrible, terrible precedent. And unless the United States is prepared to recognize what kind of precedent this is, we are on the slippery slope to really clamming up just about any kind of even faintly controversial group's right to assemble and exercise their free speech rights.
Exactly. Well, my condolences and my best wishes to you. And I really thank you for coming on the show. I talked about Ameren the American Renaissance Conference last week was exhorting people to attend it. So I think now at least a lesson can be learned that free speech is a very tenuous thing, and if people don't defend it, we will lose it. In America, the last bastion of free assembly, it's teetering on the edge because people are not willing to defend opinions and not willing to defend truth. But thank you for coming on the air today, Jared.
Well, Derek, it's been a real pleasure, and best of luck with your program, which remains one of those rare bastions of free speech.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure to be your guest.
Thank you.